spirituality, afterlife, leave that on one side for now. Right?
Yeah.
These are matter of discussion, but not concerned at this very minute. We need to have the common ground, which is reality exists for both of us.
Yeah, that's why I
we
like
exist.
science.
We exist for both of us,
Yeah.
and we can talk about this from a scientific perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we were to talk about this from a scientific perspective, what do you think your relationship with this universe, with this cosmos? Are you just a particle of dust within this existence, or there's more?
Well, definitely we are. Like from the scientific part, we know that we are nature, and we live in a natural process. And our nature part works as any other natural being.
I'll explain to you later.
We're born, we live, we die. That's for sure. The other part, which we don't know, we can imagine it, we can discuss about it, but always from a non-scientific perspective. And so I think it's all about faith, whether you feel it or not. Right now I'm kind of struggling with that faith, so you can tell me about what you think that there's afterlife. I can tell you what I think
talk about
that there
the
is, but
afterlife later. Let's talk about this life first. This life.
So what do you want me to talk about?
This life, this reality that we can observe and we can experience,
Yeah.
has it always been there? Or did it have an existence, beginning?
It had to have a beginning.
Okay. So this universe hasn't always been there in existence. So you go in line with the current thinking in most of the scientific models that this universe had a beginning a few billion years ago, 13.7 or whatever billion years ago, right?
Yeah.
It started with a big explosion, we call it Big Bang, prior to which there was nothing. Okay? So people, the minds who study astrophysics, study cosmology, we're talking about scholarship in this area, they have different opinions whether there has been a singularity always, from which, and one form that they rise from the singularity, which is our universe. Or there was nothing, but this nothing again wasn't nothing, it was something, like we're talking about the model Professor Lawrence Krauss describes. Is nothing is not really nothing, is nothing is something. Some kind of thing which
Professor Lawrence from the Reason of Faith, maybe, or maybe I'm mixing.
He's a well-renowned scientist.
Yeah. Okay.
He's published a book which is quite concrete for most of the people as a when the universe from nothing is a book. He's given lots of lectures on this as well.
Yeah.
So others describe that there are other universes. So we call them multiverses. There are multiple multiverse.
Yeah.
Ours is just one of those, many of these bubbles. Okay, various theories. Okay, so some are of the opinion that there was always something. Others, no, there was nothing. But again, they're confused. I would say in my words, what this nothing is, because they're differentiating between the philosophical nothing when we say nothing is nothing, and yet they're actually putting some characteristics and making it something. Like if there's some fluctuations going on and vertical particles coming out from it. That's not nothing. That's something. So, what is your understanding? Because if there was absolutely nothing, then do you think there will be something? If there was nothing to begin with?
That's a really difficult question, but everything has to come from something else. So at the real beginning, I don't know what was that fire that began it all, but I can only talk about nature. So I cannot go like trillions of years ago and what the Earth or the universe or the multiverse or whatever you said was. But I think the only way to study that is science. But I understand the question where, like, from what everything begins. Like, okay, let's say everything began with a God that created. where does this God come from?
You can ask the same question. Wherever that God came from, something, if it is something,
Yeah.
what that something came from. So you can carry on asking questions, right? So we are now facing something called like an infinite regress. Okay, this is a term, you can look this up.
Yeah.
So let me give you some examples how we can solve this problem, okay, by understanding the examples. If something has happened already, like an action has taken place, like this universe has come into existence, is it possible there were causes prior for this universe, causes for this universe coming into existence?
Yeah.
There are infinite number of them in the past, because the question that I'm answering, what caused that creator? Right? When you say, okay, well, let's say a creator, a God created this universe, then one can say, what created this God or creator? And why stop there? What created that God which created this God which created the universe? And you can carry on like this, okay? Yeah. So if you have this universe, and you have one God there who was created by another God, created by another God, and another God, and you go on ad infinitum, right? And so that. This is one way of looking at these things. But how rational is this? Because we have to be rational in our thinking.
I think from the God perspective and the spiritual perspective, since we're talking about another dimension, time is not as we, like, there's no time. So I think we're discussing about something that it just doesn't exist in the perspective of...
We're talking about cause.
Huh?
The universe
yes,
came into existence, as you said.
Yes.
With a cause which you describe, let's say it's called God. Okay? So God was the cause of this universe. The universe didn't come into existence by itself while it was nothing. Because if it was nothing, let's understand this a little bit more slowly. If there was nothing to begin with, nothing means there was no energy,
okay,
no something, no matter, no fluctuations, no quanta, no gravity, no quarks, right? There is nothing. So from this nothing, you cannot get something, because something, to get something, you need energy. This something is energy, right?
Yeah.
Matter and energy, they're interconvertible. So if you have nothing to begin with, there will always will be nothing. So the idea, some people say, oh, nothing can give rise to something, it's not really a rational way of thinking. Because if you have nothing, you end up with nothing. There's always going to be nothing, because if you have absolute nothingness. If you do have something, then the question is, what is this cause? And when we go and asking what is the cause of that cause, if we want to continue questioning this.
Yeah.
So, whether there is infinite causes for our universe, or the causes end somewhere. If it ends somewhere, we will say this is the first cause.
Yeah.
So these are the two options. We want to know which one is most rational.
Yes.
Okay. Let's take the one which is infinite number of causes. Okay. If it was infinite number of causes, then I would say this universe will never come to existence. Never. It will not come to a point where it will exist. Do you know why? Let me give you a scenario to understand this. Let's say you are the librarian.
Okay.
And I want to borrow a book from you.
Sure.
Okay? Me and you. There are infinite number of people in front of me.
Okay.
So the action of book borrowing needs to take place, that is, from your hand to my hand. I need to get this book. That's the action to take place. Now, before that happens, there's someone else, and someone else, and someone else. Infinite number of people.
Yeah.
Never ending. So I am on a chain of this borrowing queue. Would I ever borrow the book from you?
No.
Never. Because there's always going to be someone in front of me. It will never take place. I will never get the book in my hand. The reason being there are infinite number of the causes. So that demonstrates if there were infinite causes for our universe would not come into existence. Because there will be, these causes will be causing by something else, will be caused by some other causes. And the universe, the end universe will never come into existence. Just like the book borrowing will never come to existence. So how do we know that this is not how it happened, or it's not the most rational way of thinking and coming to the conclusion? It's because the universe exists. The action has taken place. The action of universe coming to existence has taken place just like the book has been borrowed. if I get the book on my own hands from you, then you know for sure there weren't infinite number of people, because I have got the book.
Yeah.
If the universe has come into existence, we know there cannot be infinite number of causes. There cannot be. That means the causes of this universe end somewhere. And that end is the first cause. The philosophers have described this quite, aptly and with, intelligently thousands of years ago, if not, from the very beginning of people's thinking when they came up with this. Just talking about the universe. The Greeks, for example, and others, they talked about this. Aristotle, I think, called it the prime mobile, the first cause, okay, if I'm not mistaken. So, when we are using our scientific perspective in understanding the world, we do know if our world has come into existence, the causes of our world at the end is a finite cause. Something, not finite cause, finite chain of causes, somewhere it ends, and that is the first cause. So the question now would be, this first cause, obviously, prior to it cannot be another cause, because otherwise we'll go into the same problem. What caused the cause? So we are now coming to a point where we're saying there is a cause, prior to that there is no cause. So we call this cause the independent cause. The one, or the thing that is independent, not dependent on something else, absolute. It's an absolute cause. Absolute and independent, from which the universe came to be. Whether there were millions and zillions of gods or creators in middle or not, what's important is that there is a cause which is the very first. Of course, as Muslims, we don't believe there are millions of gods and demigods and other creators.
Yeah, of course.
God is the only one.
Yeah.
Okay? Who is the first cause of everything? Who is the originator? It's called Badi'us Samawati wal Ard. The Quran describes the originator of the heavens and the earth. Do you follow?
I follow, but I think I don't share it.
Why not? Share with us why don't you follow?
Okay, for example, you're talking about that you're here between you and me being the library guy. There might be infinitive causes. For example, like your perspective is that we are here because of a cause, that someone or something had to want us to be here. And from the scientific perspective, I don't share that things just happen because of a cause, but not because of someone wants that to happen. It is just nature.
That's another thing to talk about. Why we are here from that cause. But do you agree or appreciate at least that there cannot be infinite number of causes for our universe's existence? Because if there were infinite, the universe would not come to an existence. Just like the book borrowing. If there were infinite number of people, I would never take the book from you.
I don't know. It's a difficult question, but I think we are getting to the same point. What you're saying is that how everything began in from your perspective, something or someone who want everything to begin.
Now,
right?
in terms of wants and will and intention, this is secondary to the question of whether our universe had finite or infinite causes. The cause, whatever it is that brought us into existence, obviously must have certain characteristics, properties or attributes. Whether this cause has intention, will, is what you're now discussing.
Yeah.
But I am simply saying, do you at least appreciate that this cause wasn't infinite, but there was a first cause? Because if there was a first cause, the universe would not be here. That is my point now. So I'm not going to try to say, okay, agree with me, but I'm just saying, as long as you appreciate it, it's fine. You can give thinking.
I appreciate it because
think about it later on.
Okay.
But as you can see, from a rational perspective, it doesn't make sense. There were infinite number of creators or causes. What does make sense
because
and
there
what's
has
rational?
to be a first one.
First one.
I
So the next question is, if we have a first cause which brought us into existence, what are the attributes, properties of this cause? The cause cannot be, by definition, limited and finite and dependent. because it means it requires some other cause. So it is independent. It is absolute, as we alluded to earlier. This is one of the characteristics the Quran gives about the Creator, that He is as-Samad. Everything depends on this Creator, and this Creator is not dependent on anything or anyone. Okay? Independent, absolute.
Okay.
Someone who is self-sufficient.
Okay. I'm gonna agree with you in this point. So let's say yes, there's like a creator who want everything to start, because if not, from the from the scientific perspective, if there's like infinite causes, there has to be a first one who's independent. So, okay, there's a supernatural being who want everything to begin. So, like, let's call it God. Do you think God, everything that happened in the world is the will of God, for example?
Let's take this one step further then. If the Creator, God, brought us into existence, as you've already explained to me, there has to be an intention behind this Creator. The Creator willed it.
Yeah.
So there is a will of the Creator for us to exist. Now, whatever happens, either we have our own independent will, or we follow as much as will that's been allowed for us. Okay? We clearly know that we do not have absolute will. Can you fly? Flap your wings. You don't have wings, right?
But that's not my will.
Yeah, but even if you will to, like if I want to fly now, I want to jump up to this space, I can't. I have a will, but I cannot do that because I am not capable of doing this because of restrictions. So my will, even though I have a will, like I want to be the richest man, I don't want to be, but if somebody says I want to be the richest man in this earth, people will so many things, right? But it doesn't materialize. So our will doesn't materialize, even though we have the will to will it, okay, but it doesn't really necessarily happen. So the question is, how much of the will is it under our control?
Yeah,
and how much?
I'm talking about the will in terms of our decisions. Like, for example, I cannot fly, but I can try to, So, like, what I'm doing is my decision. So, and whatever happens, it was cause of the decisions that I took, of my will. So what I'm asking is, you think that we have the will to take our own decisions, or that everything happens because of God's will?
It's a very interesting question. There are some early Muslim scholars, they differed on this and they became two extremes on this very question.
Yeah.
Okay. The position that we are offering in our discussion is the middle position. Okay. Islam is the middle nation. So we don't go into extreme of Qadariyya and the other extreme of Jabariyya, which is you have absolute control of your will and everything, or you don't.
Or not.
Okay? No.
Okay.
Middle will. So what we understand from the teaching of this Creator through the prophets and messengers, through the last prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we have a limited amount of free will. Okay? Limited amount of free will, which we can exercise and make decisions ourselves on this. Because if we weren't, then we are not responsible for anything. Like we are like robots. Someone's controlling us. Like
there's no
these
point on
string, what they call puppets. Yeah. We don't believe we're like that.
If you agree with that, like there's no point on like judging someone if he doesn't have a will.
Exactly.
So if there's heaven and hell, people have to have a will. Like so, from that point of view, of course, like. Not everything that happens in the world is the will of God. It's just the will of man.
So now to talk about, to bring the will of God in perspective from the Islamic understanding, is this: nothing happens except the will of God. Now, why do I say that? Because this is what the Quran says. Nothing, you cannot will unless God wills. So what happens is this: God allows you to will. Okay. For example, say there's a bad person. He wants to kill someone. Now, God could stop that person from doing it, but God allows that person to have that will and be responsible for that action, even though God doesn't intend or wish that people should murder each other, innocent people and so on.
Yeah.
Okay? But that will is there, so God allows it to happen, but the responsibility or the consequences is on that person, because the person wanted it to happen. Okay?
Yeah.
And God just, materialized that will to manifest. If I say, I will meet you tomorrow, 10 o'clock, Marble Arch,
Yeah.
okay, and I die 10 minutes later, I was not in control of my will, okay? So there are things we know for sure that ultimate will is the will of God, because it was His will that I die.
Yeah.
It was my will that I meet you, okay? So ultimate will always takes precedence. But He might will, in accordance with what I want, sometimes He might interfere, right? Okay, these are the times God interferes in His wisdom, okay? He might stop from, imagine someone wants to, hit you or something, and that person just, before they came, it just stopped, they couldn't do it, they just fell down. He just became totally incapable of doing that. We have an example from the biography of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before he was born, one army general called Abraha came to destroy the Kaaba.
Yeah.
With the army of elephants. He had this intention to destroy, but the elephants would not just move towards the Kaaba. Okay? Because the ultimate will of God was nothing should happen to the house of God, where people should worship God. So there are many examples we can give you about the ultimate will of God, but it's easy to understand that if we had no will whatsoever, we're like robots. Then no one can be judged or blamed for anything.
Yeah.
We have absolute will for everything, then we should be able to do everything. But we can't do everything, we can't wish anything, everything.
I don't agree with that point.
So, do you agree at least then? There is a middle point where
Yeah.
there's a limited amount of free will.
Well, no, actually not. Like, I think we have unlimited free will, but as I explained before, like, we have free will to take whatever decision we want, but we are limited by nature. I can, like, my will maybe fly. I have the will to, like, take the decision of trying to fly. And nature is limiting me from flying.
From that point, this will that you think you have, yes, this is the will that God allows us to bring it into our thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's fine. So Islam doesn't say, but whether it materializes is a different thing, which you agree with, because manifesting the will is a different thing from willing it. Yeah? So I might have thoughts, and these thoughts don't materialize. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is a will for our existence from the Creator. The question is, why are we here then? Why did this Creator create us? That's the next step. That's the next question we should ask. Are we here for no reason, no purpose at all? Or is there a purpose of our existence?
That's a question I cannot ask.
Yeah. That's the question that
I cannot answer, sorry.
We can think about it, but our thinking will be speculation. And at best it will be speculative. I think we are here to be good. I think it's here to be nice. I think it's here to be generous. People can bring up lots of reasons. But the real purpose, the real reason, can be only known from the Creator Himself. Creator itself. The Creator tells you, this is the reason I created you. Do you agree? Because we can speculate about so many things.
From the spiritual perspective, of course, I agree with you.
From any, if you think about this, people have difference of understanding in terms of why they're here. Yeah? Whether they're humanists, atheists, secularists, agnostics, religious people, you can see that people have a lot of difference of opinion exactly what is the purpose of their life. Okay? So, because of these differences, obviously you can't pinpoint to them, okay, that's the real answer, can you? Because who's right? So when you have questions like this, the best solution, or the answer to this question is, the one who created you will tell you. So if I've made something, if I've made an object like this, you can say, oh, you know what, this is for to putting the nail on the ground.
Yeah.
You can use that like a piece of metal. But obviously, it might have another purpose, like it's a phone, right, to speak and do other things. So the one who makes it will tell you the purpose, why it's made. So it is reasonable to understand that the Creator which created us tells us what the reason is. And this is what we say, that all prophets and messengers, they came, who were the agents of God on this world, as someone who would guiding us to these questions, clearly told us the purpose of our existence is to acknowledge God, to love God, to worship God. Okay? To worship, total submission and surrender to our will, to the will of God. Okay? And that then signifies that, okay, the gratitude to this Creator. Because the essence of worship is gratitude. We are actually being grateful for everything. We're showing our gratitude. And this is why every Muslim, every day when they pray, there are 5 times of prayer. They pray 5 times regularly. Within those 5 times of prayer, there are at least 17 times they say like Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, minimum. Which means all praise and all gratitude belongs to God, Lord of all the worlds. Okay, so we are constantly, bringing us back to this reality of submission and surrender to this Creator who created us for this purpose. Now, this is mentioned in the Quran. This is taught by the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the message God gave, but there was a series of messengers from the day that God created human beings. Everyone came. When I say everyone, all the guides who were prophets and messengers raised to guide the people, they said the same thing about the purpose of life. Because we're not here to live forever. And history is an evidence that people have died and people will die and we will die. We will not going to live forever. Even though you might have some feelings of immortality that you want to live forever, this is something that God may have created you with this feeling. You want to live forever. But in fact, in reality, you will be at some point, not now. In this life, there will be a death, which will be a gateway. Because between this life and our death, we have to fulfill the purpose that we are created for. And after that, there will be this eternal life that we so aspire. But this life will be made by what we make of this life.
Okay, well, of course, from the spiritual perspective, I agree with you, because, like, as I told you, like, I'm struggling with my faith, but so I've been raised like in a spiritual perspective and a Christian religion. So in my religious perspective or theory, I totally agree with you. But the thing is, like, talking about this gate to the other dimension and the other life, right there we are like going beyond the nature laws that we know and that we can study and that we can see here in life. So my question is, have you ever seen here in life the laws of nature being broken? Like, because I've never, and I understand like the spiritual perspective, but the thing that makes for me hard to believe right now, like to have faith, is that I've never seen like the laws of nature being broken, and that I have no evidence at all, scientific evidence, in that there may be a second life, which doesn't mean that there won't. But for me, it makes it hard to believe it, because I have no evidence at all.
In the times past, the laws of nature which we understand were broken. Even though those things that happened, also within the bigger aspects of laws of God. Okay? But from our natural perspective,
they are being broken, but you always keep it in the natural or scientific perspective. Science is evolving. That's why I say not everything that we know is science, but because science 200 years ago would tell us, would describe a different world than the world that we know today from science. So based on that, I can say that science doesn't explain everything, because within 200 years, science is going to tell us things that today we don't know. But the thing is, it is difficult to me, as could be difficult to a person 500 years ago, to think that the world was was a circle. For me today, it's difficult to think and to believe that there's something else beyond nature. And
You know the aura in the body?
yeah,
The aura. You ever heard of the
Yeah,
aura around
yeah.
Did you know it's absent from a dead body?
is absent.
It's absent.
But can
So
you
once a
can you
person has
middle
passed-
can you middle the aura scientifically?
Yeah.
In a person?
Yeah, this is what they're studying. The
Yeah.
aura about our bodies, and they can judge between somebody who's happy and somebody who's sad. The aura changes.
Yeah.
But this aura is absent from a dead body. So somebody who's passed.
Okay,
away-
so what I think was the aura, I guess it's something else. Like I think the aura like in a dialectical concept, but I didn't know that you can actually like study that
Yeah, they are
scientifically.
studying it. They don't fully understand it yet, but
Yeah.
they're still trying to understand it. Oh, sorry, I just wanted to.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate the intervention.
One example I can give you is from a living evidence, material evidence,
Yeah.
which has broken the laws of nature.
Yes. Which one?
This is the Quran.
The Quran.
The Quran is a living miracle according to the Muslim scholarship and the layman. This is consensus. It's a living miracle. Miracle by definition
Yeah.
is something
you
goes
cannot
against
explain.
natural laws that we understand.
Yeah.
So how is the Quran a miracle? The Quran makes people totally incapacitated to imitate it. If it's a piece of literature, you can imitate the literature, right? If it's poem, for example, prose or poetry, you can imitate its style. People have imitated Shakespeare, people have imitated Beethoven, or people can imitate, yeah? People can imitate your voice and my voice, you know, sure, right? When it comes to the Quran, you cannot imitate the style of the Quran. It may be difficult for someone who's not qualified in the Arabic language, for example, you know Arabic language, to appreciate this. But there are ways of thinking about this because you can objectively assess the Quran's structure. It came in a language, even though it was Arabic, but the forms, the stylistics were totally unique and different. Okay? So objectively you can measure this. Objectively. And studies have been done already to objectively show how the Quran came to the Arab population, Arabic speaking people, in their own language and brought in a form, in a genre, this Quran, not being poetry, not being prose, not being the saying of the soothsayers, but in an eloquent speech which they're unable to imitate its stylistics.
Yeah.
Unable to. Why? Because it came and to totally overturn their convention of the language. So if you speak if I were to speak to you now in English and totally changed the grammar, the syntax, then you won't understand what I'm talking about because it will be like gibberish to you. It will not probably make sense to you because you understand English with the words and the vocabulary and the placement within a sentence, the linguistic elements that's joined together, these words, the grammar that makes a cohesive unit of a sentence that I'm trying to convey to you the meaning of. But if I totally did something totally different, you would not understand it. The Quran came, it uses the same Arabic letters, alphabets. It used most of their vocabulary.
I don't think I'm gonna get your point because from my vocabulary, there's no book or no text that you cannot copy exactly the same.
That's the general principle, that you should be able to imitate everything. So what was the Quran that prevented from people imitating it? That is the thing that we need to really discuss. That is the thing really we need to appreciate. Okay, so if you are not an Arab yourself, Arabic speaking, not Arab, Arab speaking,
which of course,
then we need to go to the people who have learned Arabic, professional Arabic speakers, who doesn't have to be Muslim. I mean, non-Muslims are fine. What have they seen? So, as I said, objective studies, using academic standards of objectivity, demonstrated how the Quran came. For example, you have a particular chapter in the Quran. If a chapter in the Quran is say, 15 words, the number of new linguistic features, innovative features, going beyond the convention will be more than the number of words. In fact, I'll show you some examples without going into any detail, just to show you, by the principles. This is an objective study, volume 2. First volume is the method.
Okay.
Second volume is the application, about the linguistic miracle of the Quran. Yeah. So, if I were to give you an example of a chapter, very small chapter, you can see very clearly. 1, 2, 3, 4 ayah, 4 sentences. Yeah. How many words? You can count them. 15 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. The number of this newness or linguistic innovation, linguistic novelty, which defied the convention, is 22. Every single surah that you study, this is another surah. Okay? 23 words. At least 31 linguistic innovations. Innovations were going against the convention, and yet eloquent. In fact, most eloquent speech. This is one surah. I'm not just going to give you an example. Every surah, like this is a shorter surah. Again, how many?
From my opinion, it doesn't matter how eloquent that may be.
No, what I'm saying is, it's not about eloquence. I'm saying, even though it went against the convention of the Arabic tongue at that time, it went against the convention of their poetry and their prose. This came with an eloquent speech defying the convention. In a way, they were incapable of imitating something like that. Let me give you something that
we can now imitate.
The question is, you can't. It hasn't been, and it cannot be. It cannot be. So this is an objective assessment of this linguistic miracle.
I think from our linguistic differences, I'm not going to get to
I'm not going to give you any details. Let me give you, these buildings, right?
Yeah.
They're made of bricks. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Suppose now I bring a building, and I say, you cannot imitate the building that I'm going to bring. So I bring a building made of bricks, but every brick is totally detached from another brick. So you can act detached. So the bricks are there placed, one over the other, but there is not touching each other. You can actually see it, like go through your hands through it, and the whole structure is like this. Total building, but each brick is totally disconnected from another brick with anything, like floating in space. Would you be able to imitate this building with your current technology?
Hardly.
You cannot. So even though the Quran is made up of Arabic letters and words, it came up with this structure, like this building, that it cannot be imitated. So at least if you can understand the building structure, this is what the Quran comes. So we have objective studies done to demonstrate. So this defies what we call the natural principle of our world, the natural laws. We should be able to imitate it because it's a piece of literature. We have language with its own grammar.
A miracle, you couldn't copy that miracle. You couldn't. I'm assuming from your perspective. Okay, that building I could copy. I could get the manual that you based to build that building. I could do the same thing, and if I do a step by step the same thing that you did, I have to have the same building at the end, unless the material is different.
But
what is the material of the Quran? Like, from the objectively talking, I guess there's paper,
like. Quran is an oral book, so you have letters and words that makes up units of what you call sentences.
So right now, I guess how many Qurans are there in the world? Thousands, millions, right?
Yeah, but this.
No. I'm talking physically.
But what we're talking about is not the physical structured book. Quran is a recital. It's a recited book, so I can recite the Quran from not me personally, but hundreds of thousands of people can. They memorize the whole book, right? So when they recite the Quran from beginning to end, this Quran comes with structures, what we call surah or chapters.
Yeah.
They have their unique features, without going into details, because language is not your field, right?
Yeah.
So my simple point is this. If I told you, look, I am the master builder, okay? I made this building without bricks touching with each other.
Yeah.
You cannot copy this building. So you have to at least admit that I made this building for a purpose and I am the master builder. So you will say, okay, fine. Sorry. You observe it. It's impossible for you to make it say, okay, fine, I accept you. You are a very skilled builder.
Yeah.
I don't have the means to imitate this building. So I will I will submit that you are a skilled builder. The Quran says this Quran is from God. If you do not believe that this Quran is from God, if you do not acknowledge it, then, imitate the Quran, produce a chapter like unto it. One chapter, 10 chapter, a whole book. This is what the Quran says. But it then says, it says you cannot do that because it's a revelation from God.
Okay.
So it offers you the challenge. The Quran offered the challenge. The question now is 1438 years at least has gone.
Yeah.
We are not in a better position now like they were before. They were speaking that language.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though we are learning language at that time, this was very, language of the people speaking, living. Even though today people speak that living language, but you can see the difference. That time they couldn't do it. They admitted.
Yeah.
And carried on throughout the centuries. They're unable to. So we are saying people have failed, and these studies will demonstrate how they have failed and why they have failed of any attempts they have done.
Okay.
Okay.
So, for example, from my perspective, I think that same thing. Like, for example, in the Bible, if you tell someone, okay, do another chapter from the Bible, and he does it, and he does exactly the same style, using the words like grammatically, etc., than the Bible, people is gonna say no, you couldn't do it because there's only one Bible, and because people knows the Bible, and they are gonna say that it is not just like the Bible because they already know the Bible. But the thing is,
so you didn't understand what I mean by imitation of a style.
Yeah.
Style.
But the thing is,
style.
Yeah.
You have styles of poetry.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have in Arabic language.
Yes.
There are 16 types of Arabic poetry. They call them bihar. 16 types.
Yeah.
Rajas, Dawil, Khafif, Madid. There are 16 different types. They have these distinctive styles. Okay.
Yeah.
So to make it, you have to follow the styles. They study called ilm al-arud. You study this in school if you want to study Arabic language, Arabic poetry, and then you can formulate poetry and you can say, okay, this poetry is based on Rajas, this poetry is based on Madid, and this is how everything is. Yeah. What you're saying may be different, the content, but the stylistics can be imitated. So I can say, okay, that is a style of sonnet of Shakespeare, for example. Yeah. The Quran, the style is none of those 16s, its own style. So if someone wants to imitate it, they have to imitate the style the Quran is revealed in.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They can't. People can't.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying, I'll leave this example there. That is why it's a living proof of a living miracle or something that violates the laws of nature. Because you asked, can I give you an example?
Yeah.
This is one.
I asked for it. Okay.
This is one example.
I cannot.
You cannot fully appreciate it.
Yeah,
but,
I cannot appreciate it, but thank you, because maybe someone does here.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I do have a question about Quran, and I apologize if I for my not offensive, because I'm not trying to offend. I hope I don't. But I apologize if I say something that is totally not like that. But I hear from a Jewish guy that there are in the Quran, Muslim people are called to put in practice the jihad, and there are 4 types of it. Okay. So I want to know a little more about it, and how how do you think jihad should be done by a Muslim person?
Jihad, yeah?
Jihad. Yes.
Okay. So let's understand what it means first of all linguistically.
Yeah.
By the word, without the technical definition.
Yeah.
So I'm doing jihad right now. Now,
Yes.
why do I say
you're
this?
expanding
Why do I say
the
this?
Quran's word.
Because jihad linguistically means struggle.
Yes.
You're putting an effort,
Yeah.
making some struggle. So you can do jihad for doing your exam, passing your exam, right? You're putting this struggle into it. Okay? So when we struggle in the way of God to establish peace and justice, harmony and security on this earth, this is, in a technical sense, jihad. Okay? So you have the linguistic sense, any type of struggle,
Yeah.
but striving in the path of God to be better, to make things better, that is jihad in the technical sense. So there are many ways you can do this. You can do jihad with your words,
Yes.
with your hands, with your actions.
Yeah.
With your actions. So people conflate this jihad with the jihad that is the political struggle of the state. When Islamic State went to open up other lands, of course the Muslim army went, right?
Yeah.
And they opened up the lands. Some of them, they had to face the army of that country and there were fightings, war.
Yeah.
Okay? So people generally understand that jihad means this kind of fighting. Okay? That's only one aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? Now that aspect has nothing to do with forcing anyone the religion of Islam. Because Islam and the political entity called the Islamic State is two different things.
Yeah.
As a political entity, that was the way and means to take Islam, the religion, to the people.
Yeah.
Because today we have the satellites and all these technologies where you can just receive information from your own home, right?
Yeah.
Because it is spread globally with these technologies. In the time that we are talking about, Islam
you had to go to the
had
place.
to go to the people.
Yeah.
Now, to go to the people, there were certain countries, like the Byzantines and others, I mean, they have, like even today, they have these borders, right? Political borders, where you cannot enter a state like this with whatever you want to do. They had this.
Yes.
So, and to take and say, look, I've come to tell you about Islam, a lot of countries would not allow that to happen. Okay, because the political autonomy people have. But if you really believe, like we Muslims really believe Islam is the ultimate guide for whole of humanity, it needs to reach the people. So how does it go to the people? Various ways. One of the ways is the Islamic army will go and tell the next land and the people there, the authorities, you know what? Accept the message that we are giving you, and they tell you what this message is, and that's it. If you enter and take the message, there's no fighting necessary whatsoever.
Yes.
Or allow us to go into the land and people see Islam. They might not do that. Then they face the third option, which is okay, because you have now become an obstacle from people receiving this message. They say, okay, you face our army. So that was the political struggle to make the religion of Islam to get to the people, not to enforce on them or force on them. Okay, so when it reached to the people had their choice whether they accept it or not. Okay, so what we found in historical reality is this people saw it, and then they joined the same Muslim army to open up the second land, another land. This is the only time in history that I know of where the conquered people joined the conqueror to open up other lands. Elsewhere, with other civilizations where people are conquering, when the conquering people left, they say, now we are at least they left.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like this. They joined to go there because they have understood what the truth is, and then to open up.
Yeah.
Certain countries didn't receive any Islamic Muslim armies, political influence whatsoever, like Indonesia or Malaysia, for sure Indonesia. It was Muslim traders. Muslim, right? Indonesia, they did trade, and people saw their behavior. You are very good in your transaction, very honest. You people of integrity. You don't give any less in measure. You give the good product. If you see anything bad or damage, you say this is damage, and you say, okay, that's why I have to take off the price. They were very moved by the character of the people, and they wanted to know what made you like that. what caused you this change? I mean, you seem to be a totally changed person. I mean, we are human beings like you, but there are certain traits that we haven't really shed from our behaviors. What is it that made you change like that? And say, this is Islam. We accept Islam, and this is what the message from God is. This that we should behave with people in this nice, kind, generous, just way, and this is what we're doing as part of our surrendering to God. And they say, okay, tell us a bit more about it. I say, oh yeah, that's. So, and then they became Muslims at large. In fact, the whole country is majority of
Muslims. The biggest Muslim country in the world.
Which one?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Okay.
In terms of the Muslim population, majority Muslims are Muslims, right? But so no Muslim army went there. That's the point I'm only making here. On that.
Okay, so just my last question, and I'm not insinuating anything, but from your perspective, based on the Quran, what should a Muslim person do if they try to spread the Quran? The Quran message, and people just don't accept it. Like, have you done your part once you talk about it, or is there still something that, or you have to fight not physically, but fight question. Until someone accepts it? Like,
very example, timely and very good question.
You try to you talk to me about Quran. So have you done your part about spreading Quran, or you have to still pushing until I accept it? Not physically, or just...
As I said, this is a very timely and very important question.
Yeah.
Because people nowadays...
Based on Quran.
Based on Quran.
Not on your thought.
Based on Quran, people do not understand and appreciate, because what people see is the outward action of certain group of people, where in Iraq and Syria, how they're becoming so intolerant.
Yeah.
You remember how they destroyed and are trying to destroy. I mean, I haven't gone there personally now to see, but this is what we see, right? The truth, what the true reality is, people who are on the ground knows. But at least we can understand from there. It appears to be that they're forcing people and so on, which is not right. Islamically, we convey the message as best as we can. We try to make people understand, and then we say, okay, the decision is on you. So Quran says, "La ikraha fi din, qad tabayyana ar-rushd min al-ghayy." The truth, there is no compulsion in religion.
Yeah.
The truth stands clear from falsehood. What it means is, because Islam considers to be truth, and the falsehood, which is not the truth in this case, is so clear, you don't need to force anyone to accept it. You just say, look, this is it.
Yeah.
You do it for your own good.
You
lose it for you. If you don't do it for your own consequences. In fact, there is a chapter in the Quran, a small chapter, is about Surah Al-Kafirun. To you your religion, to me my religion. Okay. So if you want to do whatever you want to do, that's up to you. But the consequences, of course, awaits in the hereafter, right?
Okay.
So this shouldn't be conflated with the political entity which goes to open up the lands to people to see the messages of Islam.
Yeah.
Islam as a religion cannot be, mustn't be, shouldn't be, whatever words I have to use to make it clear to you, on forcing on the people. This religion, this faith, you have to accept it yourself. And in fact, it is impossible to force a religion on people. Impossible. You cannot force anything on me, I cannot force anything on you. Because I might put a gun on your hand and say, believe, and outwardly you'd say, okay, to save your life, I believe. And then when you go and that's it, I didn't believe. It was just my mouth, words from my mouth, in the heart. So you can never force anyone to believe anything in their hearts, because that belief that's going to go into your heart and your mind is something that is not tangible to others, right? This is your own only. And that is what you have to make your own decision based on the available information that you have. Okay. Because God is just, and He doesn't desire any injustice in this world whatsoever. This is one of the key elements with truth and justice. They must come hand in hand. So if we fail to give you this message, this is only our limitation and our weaknesses. But if you are a person of inquisitive mind, reasonable mind, a person who's using his intelligence like clearly you are and his intellect, you have to take a step. This is responsibility to go and investigate and say, okay, let's see. A lot of people have read Harry Potter. Do you know that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Seen Harry Potter?
I have read Harry Potter.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Harry Potter is a part of a literature, a story about this people and their school and so on, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't change people's lives like the Quran has done to the lives of the people.
Yeah, of course.
1/4 to 1/5 of the world population is shaping their life by the Quran. Imagine, 1/4 to 1/5 of the world population, their life is modeled, shaped by this Quran. And yet some of us do not even know what this Quran is saying.
Yeah.
The Quran really deserves our attention.
Okay, so I have a question about Quran as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
For example, me myself, I do think I've been raised, as I said, as a Christian, and I still think, because I've read different parts of the Bible, that there are some incongruences on the Bible, like some messages that doesn't agree with other messages from the Bible itself. So I wanted to ask you if you think that the Quran is all the same message, or there are some messages that doesn't fit with other messages from it. And for example, one thing I just don't agree with the Bible or whatever is that you have to recognize and acknowledge God for go to heaven. And from my perspective, the most important thing being here in the world is how you treat other people and the impact that you have in the people around you. So I don't think it is that important to believe and recognize a God that physically you cannot see or you cannot feel. So in Quran, I think it is the same. You have to acknowledge and recognize Allah to be able to go to paradise or heaven. So do you think this is more important than how you treat and how you impact on the people around you? Do you think necessarily you have to recognize it to go to heaven?
You're asking very intelligent questions, very timely, very profound questions, which people should understand, because that is what's going to make us appreciate why certain people believe in what they believe. Right?
Yeah.
So let me try to answer your second question first before I go into the first one.
Yeah.
Because, as I explained to you and we agreed, okay, there is a purpose of our creation, and the only purpose, or the purpose can only be known from the one who created us.
Yeah.
So if there is a purpose for we are created for, and the consequence of fulfilling that purpose is something that is going to be given by the Creator, because the Creator will be the one who will reward us or punish us, whether we're following His will or not following His will.
Yeah.
Okay? So God didn't want any of us to follow the path of misguidance, follow the path of error, follow the path which will lead us to torture and punishment. God wants us and constantly shows us the way to lead us to the path of paradise, bliss, joy, happiness, tranquility, constantly. So there are these two places. If you say, for example, someone doesn't need to be following this God's laws or His commands and obligations, so who is going to reward you or punish you in the hereafter? Because the punishment and the reward comes from the one who created you, because He is the master, owner of the day of judgment. This is what the Quran says. He's the owner and master of the day of judgment.
Yeah.
And then the judgment, after the judgment will be done, you will be going to two of these places, either of these two places. So the reward or the punishment comes from the one who created us, who gave us the purpose. If you work for a company, and the company has certain rules and regulations, certain objectives, certain mission, that this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right. So suppose you acknowledge that I work for this company, sign the contract, okay, I do acknowledge you as my manager, my boss, whatever, and then you start doing things, not fulfilling those mission statements of your company, the obligations that you're supposed to do, the work that you're supposed to do, but doing something else. Like, for example, your company was about doing something, like, say, in sales, cars, right?
Yeah.
Instead, you go and clean people's swimming pools, the dirt and so on. So, good thing, you're making swimming pools clear and so on. You're cleaning the streets. Everything that you do is good, right?
Yeah.
But that is not the purpose that you are commissioned to do.
To be doing,
yeah?
yes.
So you shouldn't expect at the end of your month, if you're getting monthly wages, to be paid, because you are not doing the work that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So if the Creator created us for a purpose, you're serving someone else. If the Creator created us for a purpose, and we serve something else other than our purpose, then of course we haven't been fulfilling our purpose, and we shouldn't expect any reward in the hereafter. In fact, if we haven't fulfilled the purpose, that means the other consequence of not fulfilling it awaits us. Okay?
Yeah.
That is why it is important to understand the obligation that we have with our Creator, what we are supposed to do, and how we are supposed to do it.
Really good example.
Yeah. The prophets and messengers, that's why they are raised to demonstrate to us that these obligations, you are capable of doing it. If God sent angels on this earth and says, you're supposed to fast, you're supposed to pray, you this and that, you'll say, you're angels, you don't do any of that. Human, it's so difficult, But God made these prophets and messengers from human beings who lives and eats and drinks and sleeps and get tired. They showed us that it is possible. So we cannot have an excuse saying, I can't do it. Okay? Because they have demonstrated through their lives. That's the second part to your question, right?
Yes.
Going to the first question, it's very, very important, and I thank you for even bringing this up. Any message which claims to be from God, it has to be pristine, clear, unadulterated. It has to be free from any errors and free from any, corruption has taken place. Otherwise, what are you following? It might be something totally different to what God has said. Okay?
Yeah.
We believe, as God sent or raised up guides as prophets and messengers, He gave them the message. People followed. Some people didn't. And there are a group of people within these human communities and tribes and nations, they, from their own desires, wanted to change it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't like it, and they don't like others to also follow it.
One part,
They wanted to change it. To give you an example from today, right? So you will appreciate it. If now this country wants to ban smoking and alcohol from tomorrow, do you think they can do it from tomorrow? No alcohol, no smoking.
They can sign the law, but it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. You know why it's not going to happen? There will be people uprising and saying, no, you can't do that. Okay? It'll be very, very difficult for them because it goes against the interest of various people. Okay? The government knows smoking causes cancer, lung cancer and alcohol. They try to stop it, but still they allow cigarette being sold. They may put heavier tax on it to curb the people or limit the people from buying it, increase the price. They might put a label there, smoking causes cancer, but they can't totally stop it because there's some kind of under, restriction from the interest of the people. Right? Islamic stance were different. When Islam came, it rehabilitated people saying, alcohol, you know what, when it's come to pray, don't be drunk. It did it in steps. Eventually it says, alcohol is the handiwork of Satan. And when this was revealed, people realized, do not even approach us, the Quran said. They were bringing the barrels of alcohol on the streets and pouring it like this. That's how it was able to. So, there are things which needs changing, but people object to it because of their whims and desires. Because people love it. They like to smoke, they like to drink and so on, right? So, throughout times, there were people who want to go against the guidance of God because it went against their desires. They started changing it. Changes happened out of many reasons. This is one of the reasons. So things got corrupted. God, in His mercy, He sends another prophet, even to the same nation sometimes, because they corrupted it, to remind them back. Like the children of Israel. They didn't have one messenger, one prophet. There are quite a few of them, to remind one after. Jesus Christ, the son of Mary, also came with a reminder after Prophet Moses was sent to the children of Israel.
Yeah.
But his mission was specific to a specific group of the children of Israel, who the Bible describes as the lost ones. So the good ones are okay, but he came to the lost ones. He came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Yeah.
Okay? So these prophets and messengers, they came to rectify the falsehood that has introduced and to clarify and so on. Right? Okay. So unfortunately for various religions, even though the origin of most of the religion is from God, God tells us in the Quran, just to clarify this point now, to understand my perspective. God does not punish a nation unless He sends a messenger, telling them, warning them what awaits them. Because otherwise it would be unjust. God punishing people saying, oh, you did that, and people say, I didn't know that. So God sends a warner. Yeah. And God tells us, first point, right? Second point, God tells us He sent warners to all nations. So now we understand from this that every nation had a messenger or a prophet, okay, a guide, a warner.
Yeah.
So what happened is then, as they came, people later they corrupted this message. That's why corruption took place, and another messenger or a prophet may come to change it back to what it was.
Yeah.
When we're talking about the Bible specifically, it was written by various authors at various times and places.
Yes.
As time went by, people introduced some of the changes. And we can see the evidence of this change in libraries, in museums. When they have these manuscripts dating thousands of years, the earliest manuscript of the Bible is the Old Testament, Dead Sea Scrolls, Book of Isaiah and others, right? It's about 2,000 years. And you can compare and see so many changes that have happened. Now, I have a translation of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the three people that worked on the Dead Sea Scrolls are the one they translated it. Okay? Huge, published by T&T Clark, if I remember correctly. Interestingly, the way they've shown, every changes to the current text, because now we have a text based on some manuscripts, and the Dead Sea Scrolls. If you compare them, they will say in the italic form, that's where the difference is, and the footnote they will tell you, this is what the difference is. Every page you open, italics and footnotes. Every page you open. I did the experiment. Say, take it. Open up anywhere, 5 times, 10 times. Find a page where there's no italics, there's no footnotes. I haven't got it today with me because I haven't brought the bag. It's clearly that people have changed a lot of things. So when things happen by this corruption takes place, a lot of messages get distorted about who God is. Yeah? To give you an example where you would agree with me that doesn't describe God perfectly. You know the reason why there's a rainbow in the sky according to the Old Testament?
A rainbow?
Rainbow.
A rainbow.
We are told in the book of Genesis, the reason why we have a rainbow in the sky is because God made a covenant with Noah, the prophet, peace be upon him, and the covenant for all the future generations too as well. After the flood, He says, now, this is a sign of the covenant, that I'm going to put a rainbow in the clouds, and when I'm about to destroy mankind again, and when I look at the rainbow, and I see the cloud, it will remind me of the covenant that I made. Now clearly you can see, this passage is not saying that people need reminding, will be reminded. It says God Himself will be reminded by the rainbow when He looks at the cloud and sees the rainbow. Now that is not a good description or perfect description of God, because God doesn't need reminding. You know why He doesn't need reminding? Because He doesn't forget. Someone who needs reminding is someone who forgets. So that description clearly doesn't befit the description of God. You can find many descriptions like this in various books, not only the Bible, which goes against you know what you would expect God to be. I mean, clearly that's not a perfect description of God. So unfortunately, this has happened to the Bible, and this is why a lot of people turn away from the Bible. Okay, and they become atheists, but they don't realize that, okay, maybe this is the corruption that has happened. Where is the pure form of God's revelation? They don't really consider the Quran, which came as the final book from God. So the Quran reminds people saying, look, I have sent the Torah and the Injil before, and prophets and messengers before to other nations. And I have told them, I've did this with them. This is what happened to Prophet Noah and Prophet Ibrahim and so on and so forth. So learn from the examples, learn from the history of what happened, learn from what happened to Pharaoh. So the Quran describes. So now the important thing is, as you asked the question, what about the Quran? Does the Quran incohere, contradict, have discrepancies between the messages? You'll be surprised. This is one of the challenge of the Quran, or a falsification test from the Quran. The Quran uses this as a falsification test. It says, had this book been not from Allah, this Quran been not from Allah, you'd find many discrepancies, many contradictions, many errors. Ikhtilafan kathira, many. So it's inviting people to ponder and research, reflect on this book. Because this book, the Quran, talks about so many different things. From astrophysics to biology, from economics from history, from you name it, all aspects of our life. Quran gives you information and guidance. And yet, it doesn't contradict. It doesn't give you discrepancies in the reality. So if this is the case, then you know that this book is what it claims to be from God. Because if it wasn't, a book of this kind would contain contradictions. Yeah? So the Quran uses this as a falsification test. So the answer is no, the Quran is unique in that it doesn't have contradictions. And in fact, this is what we come here to share. If anyone thinks there is a contradiction in anything, let us discuss this. Okay. I mean, we come here to clarify that, because this is a point where the Quran is introduced to the people. Look, the Quran gives its own falsification test.
Okay.
One is imitation, the other one is this. There's various others, but this is something that you can have. I hope this is a good introduction for you to read the Quran.
Okay, yeah,
and reflect.
I might. Yeah,
reflect on it.
My sister has read it.
Yeah,
I'm curious about it. I always thought about reading, and I hope that day will come. But thank you for sharing your wisdom and for teaching me things I didn't know, and congrats for practicing the jihad today.
Right. It's been very nice.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
And you're so inspiring.
Yeah. Very pleasure talking to you.
Not just from the spiritual perspective, but as a person, you're very inspiring.
We just hope, there's a copy, the brother's offering you.
Oh, okay.
There you go, English translation.
Okay.
£10.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Who gave it?
My brother here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So there are various ways you can read the Quran.
Yes.
Beginning, finished at the end, or you can study thematically.
Yeah.
What does the Quran talk about God? The concept of God, for example. What does the Quran talk about human beings?
Yeah.
About heaven and hell? You can choose the way you like.
Yeah.
And then look at this. If you study the concept of God, you'll say, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I appreciate this is what God should be and God is. So this is what we are saying. The Quran describes God perfectly, describes reality as it is, and it invites people to be good and to be just, so that you strive better in this life, and by fulfilling the purpose in the hereafter awaits you the eternal bliss, joy, and happiness.
Okay.
What's your name?
Wish you the best. Javi.
Nice talking to you.
from
Take care.
Spain.
My name is Mansoor.
Mansoor.
Okay.
Where are you from?
I'm from Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. Okay.
Okay, we're from all over the places.
Yeah.
If you look everyone's. Yeah.
Okay.
Islam is not limited to Arabia, right?
I know. Okay, I hope I'll
take
see
care.
you guys around.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe next Sunday.
Sure. You take
It's been
care.
a pleasure.
You too.
Have a good day.